I've come to realize that saying no is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's a recognition of your limits and a commitment to preserving your well being. Welcome back to Teacher Tales, where we give you the keys to overcoming teacher burnout to find work life balance and educational bliss, if it still exists. On this Socratic Sessions episode of Teacher Tales, Just Dom and I provide some clarity on when to say no, even when you love your job. First, recognize the significance of prioritizing your mental and physical well-being by setting clear boundaries. Second, acknowledge your own capacity and limitations. You're not a superhero and you don't need to be. Understanding and respecting your personal capacity gives you the best chance for optimal performance and long-term career success.
Can I just start by
Okay.
saying something? Learn to say no. That's what we're talking about. I am just learning the beautiful art of saying no and how it can change your life. Tony, you just made a change where you finished coaching. You finished in your coaching career, right? Or for now. So what went behind that and what was your decision there?
Oh, that's a great question. So when I figured out that I just wanted my time back, I couldn't, I didn't want to be obligated so much to one thing that I couldn't do anything else. And so, when you're a coach, you have to be there every practice. You have to be there for every game, every competition, every tournament. There is no, I'm going to see you guys next week. I need to take a break. There are no breaks. So, as a coach and coaching two sports where basketball season usually starts at the end of October and goes into February ish. And then also being a softball coach, the season for softball has already started, once basketball season is over. So I would just jump right into softball, and that goes until I think April because I had maybe a month left before the end of school when the season was over. So I just had to look at the things that I wanted to do outside of school. So my wife and obviously my son, who is 2.5, shout out, as
Yeah.
well as podcasting and just my other interests. Like I like to play softball as well. I like to play basketball. I like to hang out. And when you coach, there's a lot less time for those other things. And so that went into my decision to say no. I can no longer be a full time coach. But the great thing that has come from that is me starting school. So in graduate school, I'm about halfway done at the time of this recording, November 21st, 2023. I also, obviously, I have a podcast. This is the second one, as well as I can now do the things that I want to do. And if I want to go to help out with coaching, if I want to go to a practice and help out, I have those relationships where that's possible. But now the time is mine and not obligated to anyone or anything else unless I make it that way.
So then, like you're saying, it doesn't mean that you're not being there for the kids. It just
Hmm.
gets to be more on your terms. Because for
Right.
me,
And so that goes to one of the reflection pieces that comes from the story with Tegan, where she had to, number one, set boundaries. So that work life balance is something that everyone's always trying to get to. It's not easy and it changes. I could imagine that someone without a family, they probably spend more time at work, and depending on what they do, they may be okay with that. But once you have a spouse and you have children, I'll just speak for myself, that totally changed, especially when we had our son. So that work life balance is always is ongoing, and what that looks like and The same time, if you spend 60, 70% of your time at work, when life starts to change, that 70 may have to go to 60 or 65 or 45. You may need to spend more time away for various things. But how do you how do you figure that out? Because you have a husband and two kids that are older, or at least older than mine. So how do you figure out like work life balance and setting boundaries?
So, this is actually something that I've been kind of going back and forth on because I was lucky enough
Mhm.
to be a stay-at-home mom um, until my kids got into school. So once my son entered pre-K, and we paid for him to go to pre-K, but that's a whole different story. That's fine. My husband was like, "So are you gonna go to work?" And I was like, "Yes, thank God!" Like I've been
I
wanting
can't wait to go back to work.
yes, like, but I mean, I was lucky because I got to spend those first years with my kids.
Mhm.
But so they're at school. So when I'm at work, they're at school. That's great. But I coach. I'm the senior class sponsor. I sponsor a club. Like I am all over the place. And I think that, like I just said, I'm just learning the art of saying no. I think that I have in all of my jobs always before I was a mother done so much and done so much extra and
Mm.
done all of this stuff that I just started saying yes to everything because I was like, yeah, that's what I do. I say yes to everything. And I think the turning point for me was when one of our colleagues I said something about like, oh no, I can't do that because my daughter has a cheerleading competition. And she was like, oh, I had no idea you had children. I thought that are you married?
Dang.
And I was like, "Oh my god." Like, yes, I'm married with an 8 and a 10-year-old, or at the time they weren't 8 and 10, they were 7 and 9. But I was like, "Oh my god." Like she was like, "You're here all the time. I thought that you just
Mhm.
like that this was everything." And that was my like light bulb going off moment. Like
Mm.
that I'm here so much and I'm doing so much that somebody would think that I don't have a husband or children.
That's crazy.
And not to be overly dramatic, I cried. And you know that I don't like cry about a bunch of stuff, but I was like, wow, am I a terrible mother? Like, what am I
Mm.
doing that people would think that I don't even have kids? I mean, if you come into my classroom, I have pictures of my kids up and stuff like that, but that
Mhm.
I'm spending so much time here or at our job that people would think that I have no children. And I was like, I have to step back and I have to figure out the no. I needed to stop. And then I like reflected and realized that there was times when I had told my family no because I had to be at something for work. There wouldn't have been
Mm.
a requirement. It was because I was doing something extra. And I'm like, that's not right. The no should be to work and the yes to my family. I mean,
Isn't
like,
it hard though?
yeah, it's
Because like
hard.
I would say we love what we do. Like we actually enjoy for the most part being on campus, being around the kids, being around the people that we work with. It's almost sometimes it's almost not even a chore. It's like I want to be here. I want to
Yeah.
do this. So like now when people go, well, you should go home, it's like, okay, I'll speak for myself. I'm like, well, I'm at home. I'm just gonna be sitting on the couch playing video games. Like I might as well just I might as well just be here, supporting, helping, being that face out there because kids and everybody else they see it like when you're there. Like this person was telling you, you're always here. So how do you kind of figure out what to say no to and what to say yes to?
So that is a thing. So, like, it's really been a balance for me on that. So, I've already decided all the commitments that I'm already committed to, those stay, right? I'm the cheerleading coach. That's not going anywhere. So, sometimes I do have
Right.
to say no to my family because that's what I've been doing. I have This was my last year as senior class sponsor. And we were class sponsors together, senior class sponsors together
And
4 years ago, and I have been it every year since.
was it that many years ago?
It was 4 years ago because it was my second year
Dang.
there. It was 4 years ago. and then I've been it every year since. Um, and I was like, this is it though. Like, and I only teach juniors. So my juniors were like, but you're doing it next year, right? You're doing it. And I was like, I will
Oh.
kindly give advice to whoever your sponsor is next year, but it's not going to be me. Like,
I,
it
I've been
can't.
asked.
Yeah. And so I think that I know somebody who's going to do it. But what I have decided, and then I have two organizations that I sponsor. And I'm right now currently trying to find somebody to take one of them. But what I've said is I'm not
Hmm.
taking on anything else new. And so because people know that I'm so involved, I get a lot of, hey, could you just sponsor this?
Mm-mm.
It'll be minimum to no work. Can you just do? And I'm like, no. The answer is no. Cheerleading is always going to be there. I know that my senior sponsorship will end at the end of this year, and then that will be done. Like I said, my two organizations, one of them kind of goes with cheerleading. It's the spirit organization that goes with cheerleading. So that one, not a big deal. But the other one, I am trying to whatever. But that doesn't mean this kind of lines up with you talking about coaching. That doesn't mean that I won't be there for stuff, that I won't
Hmm.
offer to chaperone trips or the
Right.
field day or any of those things. It just means that it will be on my terms. And I think that's the most important thing, is that stuff be on your terms as much as possible. I will be there for those kids. I will volunteer to chaperone every prom until I leave this place. I'm never going to be the person who is the I clock out at 3:10 and you will not see me until
Right.
7:10 the next morning or whatever. That's never going to be me. For me and for you, that's not realistic. But
Mm-mm.
being on my own terms, like, makes a huge difference.
I never wanted to like leave her as basically as a single mom raising our son because I was always at work. So for me, I was always thinking about how much work am I putting on my wife with our son by being gone so much? And then how much influence can I have on our son if I'm never there? So those are two of the questions that I had to answer when I was coaching and doing everything else. So it's much better now, but that work life balance involves more than just yourself, especially when you have a family.
It does. And my husband and I were talking about, because I have pulled my kids from the school district they are zoned to into our school district because it aligns our schedules. And so then but not to our school once they get to high school. I mean, and I don't know if I'll move or, whatever, but they're
Hmm.
zoned to it, or they're in a different feeder pattern. My husband was like, so what are you going to do when they're in high school? Like, are you going to keep coaching? Because our son plays football and my daughter's a cheerleader. And so he's like, are you not going to go to their games? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, they will be on the same nights, or like,
Right.
whatever. There's a good chance you miss half of their games. And he was like,
At least.
yeah. And he's like, so it's something that you have to think about. And I was like, it's so soon. And he was like, it's not. And my daughter's about to be in middle school. And I was like, oh my God, it's actually not. Like, it is really soon. And so he
Hmm.
was like, you either pull them into whatever school you're going to, or you have
Yeah.
to give up coaching. And he was not saying it as like I'm being
Like a
mean.
mandate.
He's
Yeah.
saying, like, he knows how I am. I don't want to miss anything of theirs. I throw down everything else to be at their events. So how would I miss their football, their high school games? And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to zone them over here. I'm going to have to pull them into my school.
All of this is to deal with the next thing that Tegan had to deal with, which is preventing burnout. Have you have you ever felt burnout? It's probably a stupid question,
It's
but
a silly question.
take us take us back to one of those times where you like, man, I need to get out of here.
I will take you to the most recent time.
Okay.
So, a story that you probably know in and out. Homecoming is put on
Mm.
by our student council, and we did not have a student council or advisor during homecoming. I am the senior class sponsor, and the senior class decided to help out by taking on homecoming while I was also doing cheerleading, and we have a big thing for homecoming as well.
Mhm.
And anybody who knows student council, I mean, obviously, anyone who's listening to this knows how much work and time and effort that is. So I was trying to be a head cheerleading coach and the senior class sponsor, where we were doing a whole separate set of events and then doing all of the homecoming events. And I should have said no to that. That was a thing, but I took it on initially as like a favor, but I should have said
I'll
no
help
to that
out.
because I ended up being at the school or at the homecoming game all night Friday. I ended up getting to the school at 1 on Saturday because I had to go to my son's football game first. And then I stayed until 5 to make sure that setup was finished. I left, went home, changed, came back, and then stayed until the entire thing was cleaned up. So like 12:30 or whatever time that was. But everything that had led up to that was vendors and making sure we had the sashes and the flowers and picking those things up because of delivery issues. And so like I was like I drove to get the crowns, I drove to get the flowers, I drove like all of these different things, making sure that homecoming court went right. We counted homecoming votes for two. How long did we count homecoming votes for? You were there.
It was a long
It was like
time.
two
I
and a
was
half
like,
hours. It was a
yeah.
long time because it was almost 6 or something like that. Or it was like 5 something, and we had been counting since school ended. Like, it was
Yep.
like 2 hours. And, doing all of those things to make sure that this one event turned out right, and we left the homecoming dance, and I went home, and I, again, just physically got ill. Like, it wasn't even like I was crying, it wasn't like I physically got ill, and I was sick. And I was like,
Oh no.
it felt like I had the flu. Like my body shut
Heck
down.
no.
And the girls were like, "You always get sick at homecoming," because literally I always get so stressed around homecoming because of the pep rally and everything that my body kind of shuts down because I go on like no sleep and all of those things. And then this was like two things on top of that. And I was like, I'm physically dying. This is where I leave you. Like, and my body was just shutting down. And my husband was like, you know that this is your reaction to
Mhm.
overworking yourself. And I think that people don't understand that part of it, that overworking yourself isn't just stress. Your body will actually or can actually start to physically shut down. It is telling you
Right.
it is time to rest. And now you are going to take the rest, whether you want it or not, because I'm not going to let you do anything else. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, homecoming is a beast. There's so much stuff that has to happen. And I just yeah, saying no, trying to set those boundaries. It's hard to do, like we've mentioned before, especially when you know that you can help with something. Um but preventing burnout is, I think it's one of those things where you got to like, I guess, check yourself, each day, each week, like, okay, how am I feeling? Like, check in with yourself.
Do
Like,
a
oh,
temperature check.
put your hand on your
Yeah.
forehead. Nope, good to
No.
go. When I think of burnout, one of the first instances I think of is the part of my brain I want to forget, and that is COVID-19. When that happened and we had to teach during that, you want to talk about being burnt. just sitting looking at that screen and nobody has the camera on, or maybe like a couple, and you just see ceiling fans
Yep.
and nobody wants to talk to you.
Yep.
And I just could not wait for it to be over. Like, I hated that time. Teaching during that time was awful. Now, it got better once we got back to the school. And they were like, if you want to teach from school, you can. I was the first person up there. Just being in my classroom helped to kind of prevent that part. And this kind of goes into like the next part where the next thing Tegan had to deal with was protecting her mental health. So when I was able to be in the classroom, kind of back in my element, like my mind was on to teaching. When I'm at home, like
You're in
I'm
home mode.
not ready to be a teacher. And I'm in home mode. There we
Yeah.
go. I'm in home mode, dad mode, husband mode, not teaching mode. So when we were able to get back into the school and I was able to teach from school, and there was other teachers across the hall or down the hall that I can, stick my head out and see, like being around people in real life was something that helped me during that time to, I can't say prevent burnout because it didn't, because that time just sucked. It sucked for all of us. It sucked being a teacher at that time. But man, that's the first story that I thought of. And then last year, when our head softball coach was out, and I just had the girls by myself, and it was really getting on my nerves. And the thing that I was thinking is like, I'm not a head softball coach. I'm literally here to just like help out somebody who knows what they're doing. I am not the person that is supposed to be doing all of this extra work. Like, I don't know this stuff, but now like games are in my hands. I think I had to coach, I think it was like 3 or 4 games.
Oh my god, and
I'm
do,
like,
like, the lineups and all of the everything that had to
all of
oh,
that,
no.
everything. And so we didn't win any of those games. Um, Part of it, one game I feel like was definitely my fault, right? So
You're like, "That was me. That one game was me."
that one, well, I at least there was something that I could have done. So, in baseball and softball, if umpire makes a call that you feel like is questionable, you can go out there, you can talk to him, say something. So I saw that the play was close. It was like the last inning. I think we had one out. So this was our second out. And I mean, to me, it looked like our person was out, but even if I would have gone out there, I'm like, I don't even know what to say to the umpire, because if you don't say the right thing, they're not going to change the call, even if they know the call
Tony.
is wrong. I'm like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. That's all I could think of in my head is like, I'm not a head coach for softball. Like, I just felt so defeated, you know, at that moment, and so I was just like, that was a burnout moment for me, because I was just in the situation that I didn't really want to be in. I had no control over it, so woo, that mental health side,
But, like,
jumping
you
into
just
that part.
said hold on real quick, the key word that you just said was defeated, and
Yeah.
I feel like as teachers, that is a huge part, like, that
Mm,
defeated that burnout of just feeling defeated for teachers or coaches. When you hit that spot, that's when everything starts to go the other way, like, and you can't
right.
even control it. You feel that defeat, and again, I've said people don't understand this or people don't think, like, whatever, the way that we take that to heart, that personal that personalness of it, of like, I was defeated, like, that's like a crazy part. I just wanted to point that out because yes, a lot of the times when I've hit that wall, because I'm like, I am
Mhm.
defeated and I feel defeated. And no one wants to feel that
Right.
way in any job that you do. Like, much less whenever, like we've said before, you have to be on all the time. When you're coaching, you have a whole squad of girls or team of girls there and you feel defeated and you're like, I can't be the one who's defeated because I have to lead these people.
Right. Right. Oh man, that reminds me of another coaching time. Oh my goodness. I was coaching JV girls basketball, and I had a couple of pretty good JV teams. Like, I didn't have any superstars, but I had enough skill, I had enough speed, I had just kind of had enough in most areas where I'm like, we can be competitive. I want to say it was the third year coaching because I coached the girls basketball for 4. The third year coaching, I had a team that was just god awful. I was like, I mean, we lost the game like 64 to 4,
Oh
68
my
to
god.
8. We had just some absolutely horrible games. And the hardest part was at the very beginning. Because remember, I had 2 like solid JV teams.
Yeah.
So like those first couple of games, like first or second game, I would just be sitting on the bench like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I don't even know what if there's no play that I can call that is gonna make this better.
Very better. Like, just run. Just do something. I don't know. No, for sure.
So one there was an email that was sent to the head coach. Shout out to my head coach. She's got to deal with all the junk.
There you
There was
go.
an email that was sent that said, like, Coach Franklin was just sitting there. Like, he looked, I think the word was defeated. He looked like he gave up or something like to that nature. He was just sitting on the bench. And I'm like, dang, they right. I had to reflect. I had to self reflect. I was sitting on the bench like, this is impossible that we losing this bad. Because I wasn't used to it. Like, I just hadn't felt before that. I hadn't felt the sting of like getting blown out by 50
Yeah.
points. At least not on the JV level. You can
Yeah.
at least had competitive teams to just
Yeah.
lose by so much, and it was so embarrassing because everybody looking at you like the coach, you have all the answers, and you don't. You know, so yeah, those are definitely my defeated moments in sports. Uh, in the classroom, I would say the defeated moments happen when you give all the directions, you give all the instructions, everything that kids need, and then when you see the work, it's just terrible. It's like, did I miss something? Like what happened here? I would say that's definitely not as bad as the sports ones because
Yeah.
because there's no winning or losing. So, how do we prevent burnout and protect our mental health? How do we do that? How does the educator out there figure that part out?
So for me, I will say one thing that I've already said is that you have to find your people. There's no other way to say it than that. And like you said, it can be on another campus. I have great friends on other campuses, cheerleading coaches. So when I have to deal with cheer stuff, I reach out to them and I'm like, this is my issue. Here's my problem. And they will talk me off a ledge because, we've all been there. And somehow when I wasn't looking, I've been doing this so long that now I'm one of the like veteran cheer coaches because nobody stays
The
in this
old
for a
heads.
while. Yeah. So now people are reaching out to me and they're like, can I talk to you about something? And I'm like, about what? But obviously, like, I'm going to be there for them. And so to me, that's like, you need the people that you can vent to. Because I can vent to my husband all day, but he doesn't do what I do.
Mhm.
And so he's not going to get that. I mean, your wife doesn't do what you do. So you can vent to her all day and it's great. Like to have your partner, you know what I mean, involved in that, but they don't
Mhm.
get it on the level that somebody who does what you do gets it.
Right.
So, yes, you should have that outside support group, but you also need that inside support group, that person who can be like, I was there last week, let me tell you, this is what
Mhm.
happened. And the other thing that I'm just like 100% is that you have to find something that makes you happy. Like truly and genuinely happy, not distracted, not
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, kind of kills time. something that just makes you happy, because you get enough joy stolen from you when you're being defeated. You need to make yourself happy again. What do you think?
I'll jump on that second point that you said is doing something that makes you happy. For me, that is definitely playing sports and not not coaching, like actually being out
Playing,
there,
yeah.
playing, getting to swing the bat. Like so, right now I'm in a softball league, which has been so much fun. I've been doing that since the summer. I stopped for a season because I had schoolwork, a lot of schoolwork, but I'm thankfully back. But that is joy to my life. And then playing basketball, I was just hooping 2 days ago. What's today? Tuesday? Sunday, I think I was hooping. And just being in the gym, shooting the ball around, and then when I get to run up and down, that's always something that's really fun. And the last thing I will say that just fills my joy cup up is being able to do stuff like this, like doing my podcast, being able to talk to people and create something is something that I really enjoy doing and helps me to prevent burnout and protect my mental health. So, boom.
Boom.
I hope you all enjoyed that conversation between me and Just Dom. It's always a pleasure having her on as we provide the keys to unlocking the teacher life you desire. Before we get out of here, remember, it's okay to say no. In fact, it's necessary. As much as you want to, or as much as they ask, you can't do everything all the time. Saying no is okay. Just do it the right way. This will help you both in the short and the long run to prioritize the responsibilities that align with the path and goals you are striving for. As always, thank you for listening. Keep teaching, keep learning, and I will see you all on the next journey.